All right, so welcome everybody. I'm Cindy Myers, and my website is yourenergyhealer.com. And tonight's webinar is the intuitive listening webinar. And we're going to talk about overwhelm, fear and overwhelm. And there's a whole lot of people in the overwhelmed state. I've been getting that a lot with clients, not just more people than animals, but animals too are just feeling overwhelmed by the energy these days. It's just been pretty intense. So that's what we will be talking about. I'm not able to see everybody. So please, if you have any questions, put it in the chat box so we can get to it later. And then we'll do some demos at the end. So if anybody wants to experience getting some trapped emotions released, it's a good time to do that. And then right after the whole webinar, I'm going to go into a healing circle. So those on with me live can participate in that if they choose. All right, so let me hit play. So again, welcome. And before we get going, if you're having a medical emergency, please call your physician or call 911. But what I can do is provide energy support in an emergency. So I can clear the trapped emotions, rebalance your system, boost your system, your energetic system, so that your natural healing abilities can work alongside with what your doctors are doing for you. Okay, so let's get into how fear works first, and then we'll get into the overwhelm. So with fear, all mammals, including reptiles, we do all share the one thing, and that's that reptilian brain that runs our fight or flight response system. And so we all have that as a real instinctual and reactionary system going. And so what happens when that kicks in is usually we have three modes that we choose from. It's the run, the fight, and the freeze. Those are the predominant ones. There's some other ones that are lesser known, but those are the three main ones that I work with mostly in folks that cause issues. And so they can create, once we experience that fight or flight response system, our unconscious or subconscious brain, the lizard brain, thinks and goes, okay, this is how I handled that situation and we survived. So now I want to repeat that because it worked before. And so that's how habits get created. And we don't realize how much of that lizard brain works, because most of the time, that fight or flight response system is more subtle. I mean, we have about over 30,000 thoughts a day. And so a lot of those are driven because of an experience where somebody makes us angry. We hear something on the news that might trigger us. We get advertising that triggers us, and it could be a commercial over medical stuff, and it reminds us of something, or an ache or a pain, and oh boy, lizard brain goes, oh no, this is a problem. And that's how they manipulate us too, because they use fear, and that fear brain to solve your problem. And you don't, and again, it's unconscious or subconscious. And so we're not in that cognitive thinking brain. And that's what lizard brain wants to do, is find the quickest and easiest way. The reaction needs to be as fast to survive. Okay, it's that piece, that's the innate instinctual will to survive. Okay, and that's why lizard brain can really mess with us. And it too, like commercials, it manipulates, it skews our perception. So that's how fear works. Now let's talk more about the overwhelm. But before we get to the overwhelm, we need to understand what I mean by a threshold where emotions are concerned. And like I just mentioned, we get about 30,000 emotions per day, which is it's a lot. We're constantly having emotions, but it's also associated to our thoughts. So every word, every thought we have has a chemical component to it. So we have all these emotions, which are just chemicals that our body creates to describe, I guess, for lack of a better word, whatever thought we're experiencing or event that's happening. So our master chef can say, okay, well, you know what, I just went into town and somebody ran a red light and that scared the bejeebers out of me. So it poured a whole lot of adrenaline into my body in order to react real quickly. And so that's how the chemicals work and get into our body. So now we have all that adrenaline in our body and we're overwhelmed because that's a huge amount of chemicals all at once. So, but most of the time, we don't have that happening all too often, hopefully not. But every time we have thoughts of anxiety, any trauma, past trauma issues, if we get triggered from those PTSD, past traumas issues, or we could have an current trauma. Again, that'll cause the adrenaline to flow. Anytime we worry, anger, any of those emotions, we're releasing those chemicals into our body. And can be, again, if it's somebody running the red light type of thing, that's a huge amount of chemicals just instantly poured into our system. But the more subtle ones too can build up. And so that's where this threshold comes into play. We can tolerate a lot of emotions. I mean, there's 30,000. That's a lot that we can tolerate in a day, burn off in a day, and not necessarily have any of that trapped. And to me, it's kind of like calories. Emotions are like calories when it comes to how our body processes it out. So if we get so many emotions, or especially stronger ones, or a lot of negative emotions in a day that we can't burn out, then they get stuck in our body, just like if we eat too many food calories. If we can't burn those calories off, they get stuck in our body, right? It goes to your hips, your thighs, your stomach, wherever it lands. It has to stay in our body because we can't burn everything off. So if we can't burn off all those 30,000 plus emotions in a day, then some of those emotions are going to get stuck in our body. And those can then create a dammed area to that spot that it gets stuck in. And it can they act like a magnet. So similar emotions are going to go to that spot that if you have another thought or worry about that, a similar memory or anything that's similar to it, it acts like a magnet and goes right to that spot. So that's where we get weaknesses in our neck, our back, our kidneys, wherever it lands, it will create a block in our natural energy flow to that spot. So again, where we can make our bodies are really very good at healing itself, and it can tolerate quite a few of these blocked, trapped emotions without us really noticing it. Especially physically, we can have lots and lots and lots. I've cleared hundreds, if not thousands, in one specific area off of clients. That's how much we can get before we realize, oh, that hurts. Okay, so there's a threshold that we can build up those trapped emotions, and then as soon as we exceed that threshold, that's when either the habit starts bothering us, and it's starting to impact our life. And these trapped emotions, or even if they don't get trapped, these especially negative emotions can create a habit as well. Because again, lizard brain said, oh, that's helped us survive, so that was a good habit. So according to lizard brain, that's a good habit, but maybe it's really not the best. Lizard, as I tell folks all the time, lizard brain is not the wisest part in our massive amount of brain that we have. It's usually, again, it makes really great decisions if somebody's running a red light. It says slam on the brakes. That's a good advice. But when it's dealing with a more complex issue that really isn't an urgent reactionary type thing that really needs to happen, our life really isn't in in jeopardy in the very moment, it doesn't make the best decision. So what we want to do then is we want to get rid of those trapped emotions and help ourselves figure out one, we want to become more conscious, especially of those uh, subtle emotions, the more subtle anxiety, the more subtle worries that we don't realize in those 30,000 thoughts a day. How many of those are kind of subtle uh, issues? It's more of a subtle worry over something. And that's making us see an experience or perceive it from a certain angle of fear. And so by becoming more conscious and more aware of it, now we can maybe, with the tools I'm going to talk about in a second, we can hopefully break that pattern, that habit that's been created by that, and use our bigger thinking brain to come up with a much more wiser solution and perception of what that situation really might be going on. Okay. So overwhelm. Again, overwhelm is when we have way too much trapped emotions going on. And right now, with everything, we're so bombarded with the economy, with the pandemic, and and gas prices, and everything else going on. Maybe going back to work, just being out for those of us that are empaths and introverts. The energy we've kind of got rusty about being around people. So just being around people, even doing something fun, can be overwhelming, and we're just not used to it. So anything where we just are overwhelmed by a lot of emotions, uh, that's taking us over that threshold of what we can tolerate, and it can really impact us both um, mentally as well as physically. You might find yourselves in a more depressed state. I've seen a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of, I like the overwhelm just because you don't even know what you're feeling. You don't know that you're depressed. You don't really know that you're even anxious. You just feel like everything is hitting you all the time and you don't know how to get out. And a lot of people are just frozen. They don't know where to turn, what to do, how to solve the problems. Their brain is fried. So that is when we really need to, step one, we want to start clearing trapped emotions. So I wanted to put this chart up about our chakras, because what I'm finding as well is when you get a distortion, especially these trapped emotions love to reside in the lower three. So the red, orange, and yellow, the root chakra, the sacral and solar plexus really love to absorb these trapped emotions. But that doesn't mean it doesn't impact the others. It impacts all of the chakras. So even if most of the trapped emotions might be occurring in your root chakra, guess what? It can impact all the others because we're a system. So if one thing goes out of balance, then everything is either trying to adapt and has to work harder because the one thing isn't working optimally. So everything else has to kind of adjust. Instead, we always want to, our body is wired to try and stay in this equilibrium place, that threshold, but it can't. That's why everything happens in cycles and cycles, because it's trying to work around that equilibrium point. So our chakras can really get out of balance. And that's what I'm experiencing when I'm working with folks, is I first want to release the trapped emotions, then just the individual emotions. We want to get rid of some of those. And then what I love doing is getting in and cleansing out all the chakras and then rebalancing them, retuning them so that you feel a little bit more at peace and have a sense of calm. And then you can actually access your bigger thinking brain. So how do we do that? How do we help unblock yourself? So again, first is we really need to work on, when you are in that overwhelmed state, it's really hard to pull yourself out of it. So that is a great time to get in a quick, even a 15-minute session. Let's get rid of those trapped emotions, get rid of them, as many as we can. And your higher self will tell me how many we can get rid of. And again, clear and cleanse those chakras and retune you. We can do all that in 15 minutes. But what you can do to help yourself, if and if you can't get into a session with me right away, is you want to do some breathing and then add in, as you're doing breathing, any one of the higher frequency emotions. So gratitude, peace and calm, joy, kindness. Make it a mantra. Do it for at least 2 minutes. Do it as often as you can throughout the day. That will just help kind of counterbalance that adrenaline based, that fear based emotions, so that you can hopefully tolerate, keeps some of that energy moving. And again, our body wants to get back into that more calmer equilibrium and not have the mood swingings or just too crazy of an energy. So if you give it a chance, it will work. And I'm going to show you this chart. And so those higher frequency emotions, the love and above, so love, joy, peace, and calm, any of those emotions, and you do your mantra, but they're not just 10 times stronger, they're magnitude stronger than the anger, than the fear, than these really low frequency emotions. So just doing that 2 minutes can really, getting those chemicals into your body, really, that's triggering your calming system. And that is so much more powerful. That 2 minutes of that can help counter, or at least help you start moving a little bit forward. If all you can do is even 2 minutes a day, that will help you be not as overwhelmed. Okay. And sometimes it's enough that gives you just a little bit more energy to heal. Okay. That's how much stronger that is. So if you can give yourself 2 minutes of breathing, adding in peace and calm, that can help you throughout the day. Although I encourage it more often, especially if you're in your high stressed, overwhelmed state. You really need to do it as often as you can. So you can even set your smartwatch or your phone, give yourself a little alarm to remind you to do it 2 minutes every hour or every 2 hours, 3 times a day. Do it before you. Let me tell you this, do it before you sit down and eat, because what fear does when you're in this overwhelmed state, that adrenaline, that fight or flight response system turns down your digestive system down to minimal. And so you're not digesting your food properly. You're not pulling out the nutrients as efficiently as it should, which puts you into that negative loop, which is the overwhelm state. It puts you into a negative feedback loop. And then that's why a lot of people get stomach issues, digestive issues, because their system is turned down to minimal. So if you do the 2 minutes of breathing before you eat, you're putting yourself into the calming system, which hopefully activates or at least allows your digestive system to be turned up higher, so it can actually process and digest that food that you need to do, instead of, again, being in an overwhelmed state. You're eliminating out all this extra food that you normally would be able to process, but it can't, because you're not in the right system. So that's why I get a lot of distortions in that third chakra, which drives the digestive system. So we need to rebalance all that. So tune yourselves to love or above. If you stay on for the healing circle, this is what I'm talking about. For anybody that's new, you want to be in one of those, when I ask you to add in one of those frequencies in your breath work during the guided meditation. That's exactly what we're trying to do. We're triggering your parasympathetic response system and getting all these systems working at their optimal frequency range, as opposed to where the distortions are. Okay. All right. So if you do need some support, again, it doesn't have to, we don't necessarily need a lot of coaching. We really, if you're in that overwhelmed state, we want to just get rid of those trapped emotions and retune those, cleanse the chakras and retune you. We can get that all done in 15 minutes. So I recommend getting the quick cleanse package so that we can do it regularly, once a week, once every other week. We want to keep at it so that you can get into that quieter state and back into a more equilibrium uh, phase and have access to your bigger brain. Okay. And then also I'm really excited because I'm on the downhill now of putting together my next children's book. So I've already have one out, Booster the Rooster Who Couldn't Tell Time. That one's on Amazon right now. And this one that's coming out really soon is the ABCs of Animals and Emotions. And that one I'm hoping to have out maybe by Labor Day. I'm not sure I'll quite make Labor Day, but it's we're getting close. So look forward to getting that out pretty soon to folks, and anybody that has grandkids or younger children or nieces, nephews, whatever, they're good for pre-K to kindergarten age, early readers, if they want to try learning to read for themselves. And they're good ones for you to read to them. So what's coming up? Saturday, we have a healing circle this Saturday at noon. And then next Wednesday is just a healing circle at the same time, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And what I have really exciting about at the end of the month on August 30th, I'm going to be a guest on Jen Weigel's Spirit Social Club, and I'll be teaching an introduction to animal communication class. And I'll be on Zoom. So I will send you the link in the email that follows this webinar. Probably come out tomorrow, the next day with the replay. I'll send you all this link, and class is limited, but if you're interested in learning the basics, it's an introductory class, but you will get an opportunity to actually practice, and with me guiding you on how to communicate with your pet. And so it's a lot of fun. I taught it, and I do semi-private classes now on Zoom. Teaching how to communicate with animals is a lot of fun. And we use a lot of my animals, and we'll try and probably, hopefully, give you a chance to work on your own as well. And so that is August 30th. Excuse me, dog hair in my mouth, at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So 6 Central, 7 Eastern. So if you're interested, check the link. I'll send that to you tomorrow in an email, or you can go to Jen Weigel's website, jenweigel.com, and go to her events page. All righty. With that, I guess we'll see if y'all have any questions. And the chat box is empty. Okay, anybody have anything or would like a experience release of some sort? We can do a demo before we get going with the healing circle. Anybody? You can unmute yourselves or put it in the chat box. Or if you're ready just to go straight in the healing circle, you can do a thumbs up. Anybody? Going once? So in the healing circle, we'll do some cleansings for you anyway. So, but if you want an individual release of trapped emotions, let me know. All righty, everybody's being shy. Okay, so I will stop recording it. Oh, we got somebody. Okay, and Michelle would like that. All right, Michelle. I kind of had a feeling you would. All right, so Michelle. I know, Michelle, you like to have neck issues and back. I will go ahead and clear some of that. Oh, failure, clearing that. Oh, there. Oh, that was a big one down your spine. It just opened that all up. Still a little tight going to the left and the neck. Frustration, clearing that. Now I think you can turn your head a little bit better. You can let me know if that's true. Um, and if there's a specific area you want me to add into it, let me know. Let's see. I feel a little bit off in the lower back too. So, unsupported, clearing that. And neck still a little tight to the left. Discouragement, clearing that. That's better. Okay. Overwhelm, clearing that. A good one to release on the day today for the topic we had. Worry, clearing that. Lack of control, clearing that. And is your lower back any better now? See if you, a little, okay. Well, we'll work on it some more in the guided meditation in the healing circle and see if we can't clear some more of that out. Does anybody else have anything they'd like me to clear before we get going? Okay, so go ahead and stop the recording.